I got on Tinder and I was like scared to death. I was like, I do not want to swipe on anybody because I am like afraid. I've heard all the horror stories about what happens, and lo and behold, something did happen. So hey everybody, it's Abby. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Today is going to be a little bit of a different video. So right now, if you hear any background noise, I am very rudely interrupting my neighbor's pool party. So just, let me get this done real quick so they can go back to their shenanigans. I already filmed this video and I edited it and everything, and I was like, I didn't really do a good job on that. So basically, I'll be talking about my experience on Tinder, my one and only experience with, well, Tinder and another app, but I just going to kind of tell the story about how that went, and then also how I met my fiance, or re-met. I'll explain that later too. And why I'm refilming this. I'm just going to kind of set the scene, I guess. So I'm refilming it because this person has a mental illness, and it was kind of, I really do not want to seem like I am blaming his actions on his mental illness, but also I do wholeheartedly believe that he was using that as whether it's true or not, whether he actually did or if he's making it up, as a tactic to like get sympathy or get me to feel sorry for him and manipulate, so I did not want to make it seem like I was talking down on people with mental illness, because that is absolutely not what I'm doing as somebody who does have problems myself. I'm not going to get into that because it's a whole different story, but I am basically, what I'm trying to say is I am not blaming this, like, I don't know, hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. I am not saying that people with obsessive compulsive disorder are bad people. Not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this particular person had problems that they needed to address and should not have been trying to, like, he was using Tinder and dating apps for the wrong reasons, and it would have been very dangerous for me to continue talking to him. So anyways, let me set the scene for you now that that's kind of out of the way. So it was about a year ago that I decided to join Tinder. So I had been single for over a year. I am like the worst with timelines. I know it was last summer around June, July, kind of into August, that all this was happening, but I just can't remember like the years ago because I just kind of like cut things out of my brain, and once they're gone, that's it. So I got on Tinder and I was like scared to death. I was like, I do not want to swipe on anybody because I am like afraid. I've heard all the horror stories about what happens, and lo and behold, something did happen. So I never like swiped on anybody on Tinder. I didn't really like the way that it was set up. Well, first of all, I didn't even like any of the guys that were on there. Like, either they didn't really explain much about themselves to make me interested in like swiping or whatever, and also like half of them had like this deer that they had just killed, or like a fish that they caught. I'm a vegan, and don't even quit for a little while. I like left it, and then I started again, and I quit Tinder, and then I was on Plenty of Fish. I thought that Plenty of Fish was a little bit better because you can they have like a filter for vegan, vegetarian, or like religious preferences. I felt like Plenty of Fish had more details. Like, you kind of had to fill stuff out to be on Plenty of Fish instead of just on Tinder, where it's like you can put a picture and that's it. Like, there's nothing else to go on. So I did come across this guy. I'm not going to mention his name. If after this video you are in the Cincinnati area and you are concerned, like if you're regularly using dating apps, I'm pretty sure that he's on every single one of them. So if you're concerned at all, if you're in the Cincinnati area, let me know, and DM me on Instagram or something, and I will confirm if it's him or not. If you just like send me a picture or even a first name, I will confirm or not. So I'm just not gonna get into that. But anyways, I saw him on Tinder and I was kind of interested, but then something happened and I like closed the app, and then he didn't come back. I couldn't find him again, and then I just kind of let it go. And then on Plenty of Fish, I stumbled upon him again, and I was like 100% sure it was the same guy. So I messaged him, and then we started talking a little bit. I mean, at first it seemed pretty normal, like corny jokes and all that. And then trying to like cut this short because there's a lot of stuff that happened like in between. But we agreed to meet at this restaurant in downtown Cincinnati, and I was like in my car about to leave, and he was like, oh, sorry, I can't make it, I'm sick or whatever. So I was like, okay. And then like a couple more weeks went by, and we finally met at, which like during this time, there was like, it was normal, like just talking about normal kind of stuff. And I actually tried to cancel on him. I was like, I said, you know, I really don't think that, you know, this is going to work out, because I had messaged, I saw that we had a mutual friend on Facebook, and there was a girl that I went to high school with that now lives in Cincinnati, and I said, you know, how do you know this guy? Is he legit? And she said he was good looking, but not worth the trouble. So I was like, oh, like, do you want to explain? And she said that some girls that she knew had like run into trouble with him, like she didn't really go into like specific detail, but that he was like kind of creepy. So I was like, okay, I mean, I'll be careful, just kind of scope it out and see. And I actually tried to cancel on him the first time we met up, and he somehow convinced me to go anyways. And so we met up at this other place like on the east side, and then went to Jungle Gyms, which is a pretty popular spot to kind of hang out. Jungle Gyms is, if you don't know, it's not really related to the story, but it's like a huge international grocery store. Like if there's any kind of food that you want, they probably have it, like from all different countries and places. It's ginormous. I kind of walked around there, looked at different stuff, and seemed fine. I mean, he was just kind of like scatterbrained a little bit, but you know, other than that, it was okay. And then just like progressively got weird. So he told me that he was a recovering alcoholic, and come to find out that he was actually still an alcoholic. He still kept going to bars, which being an alcoholic doesn't make you a bad person, but just stuff with like, he lost his driver's license because of it, because he was driving under the influence, and his license was revoked. It wasn't just like suspended or whatever. He was not allowed to have a license ever again. And he was still driving, so. Just some stuff didn't add up. Like, he hadn't been working for a long time. He claimed that he worked for his dad as a welder, and he had been, like, I had been talking to him which most of the time we weren't like talking, you know, we were just kind of like, he had convinced me to be friends at one point. So I was like, okay, fine. Like, if it's not going to work out like dating or whatever, then we can be friends. And he like hadn't worked like the entire time we talked. He wasn't working, like he wasn't going to work. And he still, like, whenever we like hung out, he had a lot of money. Like, I really don't understand how he said his dad was still paying him. But I'm like, something doesn't add up with all this. Like, I think that he was lying about that, and that he was on like some kind of disability because he couldn't work. Which, again, nothing wrong with that, but it's kind of, he was lying about what was happening. So anyways, just a lot of things that went really not well. Like, he would keep me up all night. Like, I was kind of like in this mindset, like, oh, I really want to talk to him, I want to be his friend, blah, blah, blah. And he like would stay up at night drunk, like talking to me, and I didn't really realize that's what he was doing. But it would be like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'd be like, okay, well, I've got to go to bed because I got to work in the morning. And he just kept like rambling. And then he like, a couple times he kind of got mad because I was like trying to tell him that I was going to bed. So I don't know, just a lot of like manipulation, and like he kind of wanted, he like asked me to move in with him a couple times. And I was like, okay, we just met, we're not even like dating, that's inappropriate. Like, you know, so there was just a lot of weird things going on. Didn't seem right. I just had like that bad gut feeling, and yeah, ended up that my bad gut feeling came true, that he had lied. Well, first of all, so at one point I was like saying something about, because I do own a gun, okay? So I don't even know why he tried it with me, but he was like, oh, I wish I could own a gun. And I was like, well, and we were just kind of like, it was in conversation, so it wasn't like, a big discussion. He was like, I was like, oh, well, why can't you own a gun? Are you a felon or something? And he said, no, I spent time in a mental hospital. So I was like, okay, that doesn't seem right. But, which like I said, he does have an untreated mental disorder that is dangerous. And come to find out, this all kind of came to a head. I'm not going to go into like more specifics of what exactly he did, just because I am not here to like call him out or like slander or whatever, but just like as a cautionary thing, be careful of people on the internet. Like, I know I probably shouldn't have to say that, but it just kind of got out of hand. And yeah, so anyways, this is kind of where like the worlds collide. So it was a Saturday, and I had been kind of texting him, like, I was kind of like trying to ignore him and hopefully that he would kind of get the hint, but clearly did not. Like, people like that don't get the hint that you don't want to talk to them. So I was like kind of ignoring him, or like waiting to respond to his messages, which, first of all, if you're talking to somebody and they won't talk to you other than on Snapchat, that is a huge red flag, because you are very, very, very easily, like, your location is easily tracked through Snapchat. Don't do it. Text message them, or at least a Facebook Messenger. I had to convince him to use Facebook Messenger, but even Facebook Messenger is kind of iffy because sometimes they can see your location, or if you don't have it turned off. And then also with Facebook Messenger, they can see if you're online. So, that's kind of another thing. But I was like kind of trying to ignore him. But then one Saturday morning, I got a message from an old friend. So here's where Tin comes in. So Tin and I met in high school, and actually in our senior English class. He had just moved to the area from about 45 minutes away from here, so he's kind of local, kind of not, but he just moved, and we met in our English class, and I kind of liked him. So, and this is a long story. I'll probably talk about it more like when he's back. He's in basic training for military right now, but so we anyways, we started dating in high school. Our first date was senior prom, and which was, gosh, it was 8 years ago. And we dated for a while, and then we broke up because of religious differences, which are a big deal in relationships. And so he messages me that Saturday morning, almost a year ago. Actually, no, it was at the end of August, so not quite a year ago. But he said, hey, I know you probably didn't expect to hear from me, because up until that point I had been avoiding him. I was like, don't want anything to do with him. We broke up. That's the end. Like, if I cut somebody out, I cut them out. I don't try to like stay friends or anything like that. So, which I know was probably not the best thing, but that's how I dealt with it because I was so young. Anyways, he messaged me and was like, hey, I know you didn't expect to hear from me, but I was recently saved, and I was starting a Bible study. I was wondering if you had any suggestions or anything, like advice, because I always remembered you to be a Christian and all this stuff, and I really respected that he came at me with that instead of, which I am not sure, like, he still won't tell me if he was like meaning to, like, if he was purposefully talking to me just because he wanted to talk about that, or if he was trying to pursue a relationship. But so I respected that he went at me with that instead of like, hey, what's up, or something like that, like annoying. I probably would have blocked him if he did that. We talked like pretty much all that day, like while I was at work, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I really don't care. And I was like, at the same time, I was still trying to deal with you know who, and I wasn't like responding to him fast enough on that day. And I was like, and he came out with this blah blah blah, I thought you loved me, and I was like, stop don't go any farther, that's it, that's all, we're done. Like, don't even try to do all that manipulation crap, because it's not gonna work. So I literally said, leave me alone, and I blocked him on Facebook, Instagram. I blocked his phone number, which actually, coincidentally, I got a new phone number soon after that because we switched phone carriers for an unrelated reason. But yeah, that was that. And that evening, Tim was in town for a wedding. His friend's wedding was in Cincinnati somewhere, and we agreed to meet up because I worked near a Starbucks, so we met up at that Starbucks and talked for like 3 or 4 hours that night. And then the next day, I guess he stayed up here with his friend or something, I don't remember, but that was the day that I got my arm done. So it was at the Cincinnati Tattoo Convention, and he had some tattoos that he wanted to get covered up, so he was like, well, I'll just go to the convention and see like about getting a cover up or something. And I was like, okay, sweet. And then he like ended up staying with me the entire time that we were there. So like it took over 4 hours, almost 5, to get my arm done. So it was a long time. After I got the tattoo, I had went there with my mom, and because she got a piece done too, and afterwards we went out to eat, and he took me to Walgreens to get ibuprofen because my arm was like so swollen. And I guess that's kind of, I don't want to say that's like for sure like was our first date again, our second first date. But anyways, so like the rest is history, as they say. So anyways, afterwards though, the story with, you know, who is not over. So I have means of obtaining information. I am not at liberty to say, but I have connections with somebody that was able to look up criminal history, and which some of that is actually available online. So if you, just a pro tip, if you are like online dating, some states have an inmate search, which you can probably guess where I'm going with this, but if you look up like the county they live in, look up their inmate search, you can see if they've at least like been in jail in the past several years. So I would definitely suggest doing that, even if they seem like they're squeaky clean. It's available to the public. You don't need any kind of like permit. You can just literally just on the internet, you can search their name. So I was able to find out that he had an active restraining order, which he lied and said that he previously had one. So he did actively have one while we were talking, and he was arrested for felony stalking and menacing. So yeah, I dodged a bullet there that could have gone a lot worse, and which I don't think that he physically harmed this person, but it had to, I mean, it was obviously mental, like emotional distress for the poor person that he was dealing with to have to file a restraining order. So I'm glad I did not have to deal with that, and I got out of that in one piece and not chopped up in a freezer somewhere. So that is it. That is a story of how I got away from a very unsafe person, and how I also met my fiance. So that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully I did this justice. Hopefully it's better than the first video that I tried to film. Yeah, so give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more story time videos. I know that's probably the craziest story that's ever happened to me, but I might have some more. So yeah, subscribe so I'm seeing other videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.